Welcome back to the Connected podcast. I'm thrilled to bring you an extraordinary collection in which some incredible students take the driver's seat and host dynamic conversations with professionals from across the higher education sector, discussing the vital topic of student belonging. Bringing us another great episode is Gem Standen, who today is chatting to Dr Janis MacCallum. Janis is a biology lecturer in the School of Applied Sciences at Edinburgh Napier University. Janis has been a programme leader in the past and is currently the departmental lead for employability.
So I've been reading a little bit about the programme that you run. Would you mind telling us a bit about that, please?
The programme that I'm talking about today, I suppose, is the 2-year programme that we've developed for our MSc students who predominantly come from overseas. And it was a response to the difficulties that they were facing in transitioning into the university and managing at MSc level study. So we worked really hard to build an introductory year which would allow them to gain the skills which would bring them up to speed with a student who had perhaps done their studies over here. And it would mean that they were more likely to succeed at MSc level. That was the overall aim.
Brilliant. And obviously starting at university can feel like quite a big jump. How does your work help students feel less overwhelmed during that transition period?
What we try to do in our approach is we try to we're very hands-on. The way the program's set up is that it's not all about the topic that they're learning, but a lot of it's about the skills that underpin the topic and about how to learn at university. So we're trying to not just introduce them to the topic that they're interested in, but also to introduce them to other things like how we assess, how we learn, how we are expecting them to learn while they're here. So about the academic culture, a little bit about the social culture that they're expected to join, and trying to make them just feel a little bit more involved in that. We also take a team approach, so the lecturers who are teaching within that first year, certainly, we all discuss things together. We make sure that what we're doing in our modules links up. We try to contextualize the work that we do in one module with work from another module, so that everything's contextualized around the topic that the students are taking, and that makes it more familiar for them, and but also makes it easier for them to see the connections between modules across the trimester that they're taking, and also they can see when they move into the next trimester that there's a jump and that they can link between the first trimester and the second trimester and the first year, so they have that support. We also try to be very welcoming. So, I mean, we're not just, it's not just lecturers who are talking to them. We've also got people coming in from some of the university services. So we have academic skills, we've got English for academic purposes, we've got library services. All these people are coming in and they're talking about their specialities and supporting the students in a more appropriate way than perhaps even the lecturer can, because I mean, a lot of these things I don't know as much as these people know, but I've learned a lot in actually helping and be in the classes with them. So we're just trying to be welcoming. We're trying to make sure that the students are aware that we don't expect them to be perfect from the start, that it's a process, and that what we're trying to do is we're trying to gradually bring them into that process and help them to learn from that process.
That sounds amazing. And honestly, from a student's perspective as well, that kind of level of organisation and flow through your studies is a really intrinsic part of sort of that transition period. There's nothing like coming against a challenge that could have been avoided by that sort of conversations between staff internally. So what do you think makes a good induction experience, especially for students who might not know what to expect from university life?
I suppose just making it clear to them that we welcome them, that we don't expect perfection, that they can ask anything that they want, and it's not ever going to be a silly question. Even if it might sound silly, it's not, because there'll be somebody out there who asks this, who wants to know. What else would I say, really? just not to dump too much on them at the same time in a short period of time. And it's one of the things that I always worried about when I was teaching on doing inductions for the programme, for the 1 year programmes. It's just the first week you're throwing so much information at them. They're learning in usually a language that is not their own, but that they know a little bit of, but they don't know your accent because you're Scottish or you're Italian or you're German or you're one of the other lecturers within the university. And it's overwhelming and they all look like startled rabbits and it's just terrifying for them. I think this idea that they've got more time to adjust is really important. And that allows, and just letting them know that actually the main thing, the really important thing that they just need to do is to keep talking to us. Talk to us, let us know how you're doing, let us know if you need help, and let us know early if you need help, because then we can do something about it.
I completely agree. Yeah. And actually, it's really important to note about that sort of front loading of information. I think it's absolutely something that a lot of people will say, this is really overwhelming. I don't know if it's for me, if you do it too hard in the in the first few weeks.
And there's so much you want to cover, but you can't. You just can't do that,
No.
And even the small bits that we cover in week 1, they're not going to remember most of them. You're going to have to come back to them again and again.
Yeah, completely. So when you're first starting out, employability can feel like something to worry about a bit later on. I know I'm guilty for this myself. In my undergraduate, I left it until my 3rd year and then did the panic, which I know is quite common. How do you make it relevant and engaging from the very beginning?
I suppose as the employability lead, that's kind of my remit, really, isn't it? I'm really interested in this idea of employability, and I think what it's about, a lot of it's about awareness. A lot of the students are not aware that even from day 1 they're picking up skills, and it's trying to make them aware that actually this is a skill. It might just seem like you're chatting to each other or you're working in a group, but group work's really important, and it's a skill that people want you to have. You might just be writing an essay, but communication, written communication, clear written communication is very important. You might just be looking at a paper and answering questions about it, but critical thinking is really important. And just, I suppose, reinforcing constantly that this idea of skills isn't necessarily, oh, I can do this particular experiment or I know about this particular topic in pharmaceutical and analytical science. It's about all of those generic things which underpin everything that everybody does. And I think the awareness is important. We worked here, and we've been working here in Napier for quite a long time, and in the school for quite a long time on something we call the Skills Passport Project, which is about embedding skills into the curriculum and making students more aware. And we kind of use something, a kind of way of thinking about it, where they can the students can become more aware of the skills by comparing themselves to competency tables, and they can rate themselves, and they can keep records so that they can then articulate later on to a PDT, a personal development tutor, or to an employer perhaps. Well, you've asked me this question about this skill. This is an example of when I've used it, and this is how I know that I can do this. So that awareness and building that awareness in from the very start is really important, and making sure that all of the students have knowledge of the opportunities that they can take up while they're actually at the university to get a little bit more into their CV.
Excellent. That sounds like a very sensible approach, to be honest, as well, in terms of not putting pressure on to sort of like choose your trajectory from an earlier point as well, which I think that was the impression that I got when I first started. Like, I needed to try and pick a career, but actually, like you say, it was more skills focused.
No, and nowadays it's very much more about mosaic. What do they call it? Mosaic or patchwork, sort of job, portfolio of skills and portfolio of jobs that you'll end up having. Because I didn't know that I wanted to be a lecturer until I started lecturing. I knew it might be something that I wanted to do. It took me until my 30s to get there.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
uh,
Well,
but
40s for me.
you know, all of the things that I did up until that point, there's certain parts of that I now feed into. You know, started feeding into the things that I do here, sort of thing. So anybody who asks me, I always say, well, you're not necessarily going to get it into the job, the first job that you go for. Go and find a job. I've been saying this to my own son. He's not determinedly not listening. But that's
That's
fine.
their job, though, isn't
What
it?
would
They
I
have
know?
two adult
What would
children the
I
same,
know?
right?
um,
Um, so
yeah,
what
so
kind of... Oh, sorry, I
carry
didn't mean
on.
to
No,
interrupt you.
carry on.
I was going to ask, what kind of skills do you focus on, and how do you help students to see how those skills connect to the future? I think you kind of said that,
Yeah.
but are there
I
any
mean,
particular skills in there?
the understanding is that through their degree, they'll pick up a lot of the more sort of topic specific skills, because a lot of it's around the knowledge of the topic and also the understanding of how to apply it in a lab setting. Because this is a pharmaceutical and analytical science program I'm talking about, and generally speaking, I'm teaching on these sorts of things. So a lot of the lab skills that are associated with those, the practical skills that are associated with those, the understanding is that in actually undertaking the course, in sitting the assessments and actually getting, you know, their degree, that's kind of built in there. They will do it to a larger, a greater or lesser degree, well, depending on what sort of marks they get, but the understanding is that that's what they're exposed to. So I suppose what we probably focus on more are the hidden skills, the more generic ones, which they maybe don't explicitly see that they're actually being exposed to. So the group working and the communication, the critical thinking, the problem solving, data analysis, all of these sorts of things, time management, which of course is a huge one for a lot of students. All of these things, you know, they're less aware of the necessity for them, and the fact that they can pick these things up from not just their university degree, and yes, they do, because we're trying to expose them to these things, but that they can pick them up from anywhere. So we've got students who work, and we've got students who do sports, and we've got students who are carers, and there are skills in these sorts of areas which they can bring to a workplace, and they have to be, if they are aware that they can use an example from these areas and articulate that they can do these things, then that's something that can be taken and it can be molded and shaped to fit into a new position that they take. And these are these sort of flexible or transferable skills. That's the important ones, I think. And a lot of the rest of it comes from the degree that you do, or the reading that you do, or the practical work that you do. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic, and certainly I know that as I had caring responsibilities when I did my undergraduate. My twins were very young when I started my degree. The time management aspect was something that I needed a lot of
Yeah.
help with, particularly in terms of sort of learning the balance between work and life, and that honestly, like, I still use those skills
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
to do my current studies. So yeah, no, really, really important things there. So a lot of students worry about whether they're good enough or doing university right, whatever that looks like. So how does your support, from your perspective, help build confidence and a sense of belonging?
Excuse me. I suppose if we're thinking specifically about this program, the students are spending quite a lot of time with us, and they're spending quite a lot of time with each other. So they become more of a coherent program, and they build friendships and relationships within the class and with the lecturing staff. And I think they find those it very valuable, not just to have relationships with their peers, but to have relationships with the staff as well. So that gives them that sense of belonging. Being good enough, I think it's just emphasizing that it's their journey, that they don't have to be comparing themselves to somebody else's journey. All they are doing is trying to improve what they are doing. They don't have to be as good as that person. I mean, I know I'm not as good as that person, perhaps, or, you know, I might be, but I'm not focused on that. it's focusing on the individual student and saying, well, okay, this is the work you've done. How can you move that from there to up here a little bit? Okay, maybe you're not going to take it up to here yet, but you're moving in the right direction. And I think also making them aware that we all are desperate for them to get what they want. We want them to get their degree. We want them to achieve. We're so happy when they graduate because they've got there. They've got what they wanted. And we want to know that they are aware that all of us are rooting for them, that the support is there. If they need the help, ask for support. We'll give you the support because we're desperate for you to get what you need and get what you want and get graduated.
That's beautiful.
That's our goal.
Yeah, no, and that's lovely. And I think from taking the skills focus as well, it kind of helps combat that imposter syndrome that some people might face, because you're focusing on the fact that everybody has their own differences and skill sets, and that's what the focus is, not on how well you grade on a paper, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And what person hasn't or doesn't still suffer from imposter syndrome?
Daily. Yeah, absolutely. That's lovely. So are there any moments that you'd like to share with us where you've seen a real turning point from a student, where they've gone from sort of particularly from like sort of surviving to thriving?
This particular program is great in that respect, in that I love teaching it because the students are absolutely lovely. You get them in when they're terrified wee rabbits and they don't know what they're doing, and you can see that moment at which point the penny drops and they kind of go, oh, okay, I think I know what I'm doing now. I think I might be able to do this. And there are specific students I can think of in the past who've really struggled, and they've failed something in the first trimester, and then they've picked it up over the summer because they've gone, if I don't get this, that's it. This whole adventure is over. I need to do this, and they've understood, and they've asked for help, and we've been able to give them the help, and they've gone, okay, so it's not just that you're saying that you're going to give us help, you actually do give us help, and that means I can keep doing this. Yeah, lots of moments like that. In fact, I live for those moments when somebody just says, okay, yeah, I get it now. I get that.
That's wonderful. That's really beautiful. So this is more, I think, around the sort of practicalities of your program. How does the balance of the academic side of your support couple with things like cultural adjustment, part-time work, other responsibilities, or building social connections within the university?
I think in a university like Edinburgh Napier, we're very student focused, and we have such a varied intake of students who have loads of other responsibilities in their lives that we know of and that we're trying to be aware of. We always make it clear to our students, no matter what programs they're taking, that if they're having to work and balance work and life, and they need help with that, they need to come and talk to us, and we'll see what measures can we put in place that will help this. Do you just need a little bit more help with time management, or is it that you actually need to just to move this tutorial to here, or you need to do this online instead of that, or you need additional sort of support for learning, and all of these sorts of things I think are really important for them, because it's that awareness that they're not just a student, they are a person, and that there are all of these other little bits that sit round about who they are, that we are aware are going to impact on their studies. So anything that impacts on their studies, culturally, socially, health-wise, stress-wise, whatever, we want to know about it so that we can take it into account. And I think that's a very humanistic approach to take, really. And
my favourite approach.
I don't think we can look at students now and go, well, they come in and we teach them and then that's all we do. It's our jobs as lecturers are so complicated now there are so many different facets, and a lot of that's about the pastoral care as well. I care for my students. I'm involved in them. I'm invested in them achieving what they want, and therefore I have to consider them as whole people. And I hope that they look at me and they see that's not just a big lecturer sort of standing on a pedestal somewhere, that they understand that I'm a completely normal person and that I also have other things going on in my lives. So
yeah, and I think that's yeah, your passion is palpable, and I can see that approach being very well received by students as well. I've where you may have well, I certainly, before I went to university, I had specific mindset in terms of what academics might be within a university environment, and I was really pleasantly surprised to find that they were all human like me,
yeah.
But yeah, I think people come in with preconceived ideas, and it's really nice to be able to challenge them. So on that vein, what changes would you love to see universities in general make to help all students, especially international or non-traditional students, to feel that they truly belong institutionally?
I suppose I've been privileged in helping to develop and run this programme because we're giving students more space. But I would like universities not to just consider international students as a big pot of money. I would like them to understand that these students are uprooting themselves from family and from friends and from language and from culture, and they're plopping themselves in a university, and we have a duty of care to these students. Yeah, there's a certain element of sink and swim. You're going to have to get through the transition, and there are still some students that don't make it, and that's absolutely fine because that's what's right for them. Okay, and I don't have any problems with that. If the students come and they say, well, but I haven't done what I meant to do, I'm like, that's fine, but look what you have done and go away with what you have done and use that. That's not a problem. But I think a lot of it's about the money, about how much money we can get in from international students, and it breaks my heart when they run out of money and they're blocked from the system, or they can't get a part-time job, or that they're really struggling to do their studies because they've had to have a part-time job and it's taking up so much of their energy, or all of these things are really and accommodation and all of these sorts of things which stress our students out. So yeah, I think it would be really nice for students, for universities in general, to become more aware of how it shouldn't just be about the money. I suppose is my
Yeah, no, and I really agree with you. I've had a couple of course mates that I've got to know really well over the last couple of years, one of whom moved from a much warmer climate with her children, who have been continuously sick, because of course the climate here is very, very different. It's very cold. So there was a big culture shock in relation to the weather. And another one of my friends had moved from well, it was the first time they'd travelled internationally, and they'd completely they'd moved country in that time. So it was a bit, again, it was the culture shock, but actually it was the colloquialisms that we use in our language that they was struggling with, because they said, like, what does that mean? Like, so we had a little implicit chat set up between us so she could yeah, she could message and say, like, well, what does that mean if we're in a lecture together? Like,
I know we've just, one of the pieces of work I do in my module professional practice with these students is a sort of popular science article at the end, and they write about their journey into the studies, and what they've what their challenges were, what they've achieved, and what advice they would give to other students. I've been reading them recently, and they're absolutely lovely, but in some ways terrifying, because you can see that kind of initial terror and sort of excitement but nervousness, and then utter sort of like terror actually being here and not understanding the culture, not understanding people talking to them even though they know English, being cold, the weather's just abominable the whole time because it's winter, and all of these sorts of things. And then that gradual sort of like, well, I handed this work in and then I got I got this feedback, and actually I thought, oh, okay, so that wasn't too bad then. So that made me feel a wee bit better, and then I did this, and all of those reflections, I think, are lovely to read, because you're seeing that journey that they're going on through that first trimester, and it only gets better, I think. But they need that space, they need the time. And I think if we're looking ahead here, not just for universities not to think about the money, but also to give the students time to make that transition.
Yeah.
And it's not just a
Absolutely.
week's, induction session. It takes a good trimester, a good few months before most students are up on their feet and ready to go. And for some students, it takes longer.
Yeah.
And some students, it doesn't happen. They just don't do it. They're too homesick. They don't work that way, which is absolutely fine.
And yeah, and I really love that as a really important message there, that you can take your time with how you fit in, how you belong, how you choose to engage with the university in which you're studying at. I think there's a lot of pressure for particularly staff as well as students to stress that belonging is a really important thing, which of course, if you're stressing that you must belong, it can and you don't feel that you're doing, that can feed the imposter, can't it? So
I know. I mean, this program's good because it's all face to face. But I mean, if you've got students nowadays are taking a lot more time to be strategic about what they attend and what they don't, and a lot of students don't turn up for things, and therefore they miss out on the community and the belonging aspects. And there's only so much we can do about that. We are bending over backwards, trying desperately to get people to engage with us. And however much you do that, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink if they don't want to, if they have other reasons for not doing it. So it's a shame, but that's how the world is turning now.
It's true. That more transactional nature of student engagement is definitely up there in terms of the literature. So yeah, I think we're coming to the end here now, and I wondered if there was anything that you wanted to add that I haven't asked you.
I don't think so. Just that it's been a privilege to teach all these years, because I'm 26 years into my teaching, and I'm nearing sort of like the point where I'm going to retire, and I've loved it. I've really enjoyed all of the lovely students who I've met, and teaching different set of students, especially teaching international students, taught me an awful lot actually about these aspects of belonging and of transition, and I just have to be really thankful for everything that I've learned from them. It's been an absolute joy. It's also been a complete slog at times, but it has been overall an absolute joy.
Oh, brilliant. And it sounds like the students have been very lucky to have you. So
Thank you.
yeah, and thank you. No, thank you as well for your time today, and for battling through. I know you're not very well at the moment, so thank you so much again.
Thank you for listening to the Connected podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please check out the rest of our extraordinary Voices of Belonging collection and stay connected.